All right, class. Okay, I get like 2 yeses. Come on now. All right, so we're going to go through and do our work here today. So today we have hashtag, say 21. And today's date? Yeah, 28. Right? Okay, so now this right here, it's just kind of like a mental puzzle thing. Okay, consider the exponential function 4 to the x. For each question, be prepared to share your reasoning with the class. So, by what factor does h increase when the exponent x increases by 1? So, if I'm doing it like this, so it's 4 to the first, 4 to the second, and 4 to the third. So, 4 to the first power is just that, right? Say yes. 4 to the second power would be 4 times 4, isn't it? Okay. And 4 to the third power should be 4 times 4 times 4. So what factor is it multiplying the previous one by? 4. Yeah. This is going to be a factor of 4, isn't it? It's going to be a factor of 4 to the first because that means that it is increasing by 4 every time. Now for this one right here, it says increases when the exponent x increases by 2. So let's say that is going to be 4 to the first, and then if I increase by 2, that's 4 to the third, and then it's 4 to the fifth. Okay, so again, I'm going to write it out kind of like I did here. So I'm starting with 4 to the first, which is just 4. Now, what would I do to make it 4 to the third? Add what? 2 more. So wouldn't that be times 4 times 4? Is that 4 to the third, right? So added 2 more there, didn't I? But what if I'm going to do 4 to the fifth? What do I have to do? 2 more. So, by what factor is this going up every time? Not 2. Is it going up 2 4s? It's going up like this, 2 4s, right? This one goes up by a factor of 1 every time. So each time I'm adding a 4, right? But on this one, I'm adding a 4 times 4. But what is 4 times 4? 16. So the factor is 16 on this one. Yeah, go ahead. So it's 16 on this one. And let's see, next one. If it increases by 0.5, isn't that the same as like 1/2, right? I hope so. So if it's going to be 4 to the 1, and the next one's going to be 4 3/2, or 1 and 1/2, right? So if you do it as a fraction, an improper fraction, it's a lot easier to see. Because this is 2 over 2, so 2 divided by 2 is 1, right? So I'm adding 1 over 2, because this is 1 over 2, right? So 2 over 2 plus 1 over 2 gives me 3 over 2. So that is as an improper fraction. It's going to make the math a whole lot easier knowing this. And then the next one, I'm going to add another 1 over 2, which gives me 4 over 2, which is 2, right? 4 divided by 2 is 2. So now, to do that same thing, I know right here I have 4 for my first one. But now I'm adding 4 to the 1/2, right? Or multiplying by 4 to the 1/2. What is 4 to the 1/2? What's the square root of 4? 2. So 4 to the 1/2 is the same as saying 4, the square root of 4. So this is just going to give me 2. So in this case right here, my factor is 2. So don't feel defeated if it got confusing there. This is just a puzzle type thing where you have to figure out the factors and stuff. So if you know your factors. All right, now this next one right here is going to be, let's take a look. We're going to go through and we're going to do it exactly the same as we did on warm-up. Exactly the same as we did on our warm-up. What's my initial? 16,000, right? So my initial is 16,000. So, and I know my time at initial has to be always 0. Your time should always be 0 at your initial. Okay? So it says, after purchase, the value of machine depreciates exponentially. The table shows that its value as a function of years since purchase. If a spreadsheet tool is available, consider using it to help you reason about the following questions. The value machine in dollars of a function f of time t, the number of years since the machine was purchased. Find the equation defining f. Now, what does depreciate mean? Goes down, right? So I would start off with what information? If I was doing this, I would start off with what information? Start off with, what percent do I always start off with? 100%. And I know that if it's going down, I would subtract. So if I'm doing my percentages, it would be subtracting. So that's super important to understand. So we know that this has to be going down. Now, we're going to find the equation for this. So I need a second point. So we could pick any of the points on there for this to work. Someone give me a point for this one. 0.5 doesn't work because I don't have that one yet.
Oh.
You want 1? 2, 3, any of them will work. It'll get you the same thing. Let's try 1. Someone said 1 first. So like I said, this is exactly the same as the warm-up. So, what is my P? 16,000. So I start with that. Do I know the R? I do not know R. So, that's where I start off with. Now, at this point right here, I use the second point. What is my time going to be? 1. And what is my output value? 13,600. Okay, I would like for you people right now to solve for R. Okay, so let's see. All right, you ready to go show them? What's the first thing I got to do?
You subtract 16. I mean, divide 1600.
16,000.
16,000. And you get 0.885.
Very good. And isn't r to the first just the same as saying r? So we solved for r here, didn't we? All right, so now I have my r value. So for this first question, we are solving for my function. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and write this out. You ready, Luis? Okay, so how am I going to start this out? I'm writing a function, right? So I write f of what variable am I using? Yep, f of t equals, what's my p? 16,000. What's the r? 0.85 raised to the t. Very good. Good job. All right, so now we have our function there. We have our function. Now we could solve for anything. So on the next question says, okay, find the value of t is 0.5 and 1.5. So you, as the students, are filling in those two right now. Now that you have your function, solve for those. And I will be calling on some random people here. So I'm hoping everyone's putting this in the calculator so you can answer this when I call on you. Jocelyn, you're going to get this first one for me. Yes. The formula's up there. You have to put it in the calculator. Jocelyn. Okay, I guess I'm not getting through to that one. All right. Leba, you ready? What'd you get for f of 0.5?
I got 14,
0.3. Okay, so since this is money, it would be 0.30, right? 30 cents, isn't it? Yeah. All right, let's see. Leslie, what do you have for f of 1.5? 12 what? 3, 3, 5, 3. I'm sorry. 5, 3. 0.60. Okay. Not too bad, is it? Nope, it's not too bad. Okay, so let's take a look right here. And we are going to kind of modify these questions because I don't like these questions. These aren't good questions. They're really not. Okay, so what we did, because we did all this work right here, we did it up here. Okay, we already did all these questions, but instead I'm going to ask it in a different way. So now, we know that my R value is 0.85, isn't it? Say yes. Okay, so now, what is the R value as a fraction? Remember, when we do the fractions, we always do we write the percents over 100, right? So that's going to be 85 over 100, right? All I'm doing is just moving the decimal point over 2 places. And that's going to help me out later on. Because I know the percent now was 85%, isn't it? And when we started this problem, you always start off with 100%, don't we? And we know it's decreasing, so it's 100% minus my value. So minus some value. But my end result came out to be what percent? 85%, right? So if my end result, so I subtracted something and I came out with 85%. So this gave me what? What did I know? I know that this is what? What value do I have here? 15? So let's put it in terms of my problem. It is going to be 15, right? So I know that this did what? It depreciated by 15%. So it depreciated by 15% each year, right? That's not bad. So we took our R value, we turn it back to a fraction, and then we solve by the amount that it was going up or down by percentages. So this type of thing you're going to see on the test question. All right, so like I said, I didn't like the question, so we changed it. Now, again, I don't like this question over here because it's a bad question. See this question right here? Again, I don't like that question. So what I do have is, I know, right? When we write the test, we get rid of the questions that don't agree with. So if there's a question like that on the test, I get rid of it and you never see it. So I already deleted it for you. Okay. All right. The graph shows the amount of medicine in a child's body H hours after taking the medicine. The amount of medicine decays exponentially. All right, so for this right here, we're going to go through and actually solve for everything. So this one's going to be slightly different than what we did before. Slightly different because I don't know the initial value yet. I don't know the initial value. So I know 2 different values though. So this, which is going to be 1/4, which is 1 over 4. There's 7 milligrams. Okay. After 3/4 of an hour, so quarter, half, 3/4, there are about 3.5 milligrams left of medicine. How many milligrams of medicine are left at 1 3/4? So that's actually going to be this. So we're going to turn these into decimals because the decimals are going to make more sense on this. Because having a mixed number is not good for your roots and your powers and your exponents. It's not good. So what is 1 3/4 as a decimal? 1.75, right? Yeah, that's good. So 1.75. Okay, what about that 3/4 right there? What would I call that? 0.75. 1/4 would be 0.25. All right, so my end result that I'm going to be looking for is going to be this one. But I have to create an equation on this. So I'm going to use the line paper underneath to make this equation, because there's not enough room right here. So I have 2 points. Point A, which was given to me, was my time. What was my time, my point A? 1/4 or 0.25, right? And what was my value at 1/4? 7. There's 7 milligrams at 1/4 of an hour, right? So I'm going to put a 7 right there. So point B, what was my time for point B? Yeah, very good, 0.75. And what is going to be the milligrams at 0.75? There we go. So that is a good place to start. All right, so since it doesn't have the initial, we don't have it at 0. We do not have the initial amount. So on the graph, I could look at the graph and say, hey, it looks like 10, but I can't tell because it doesn't give you that value. So I'm going to show you how to get that and the R. So I'm going to go ahead and start with my same thing every time. P, R, T. Now, I'm going to solve for this. There's my function in terms of time. I'm going to solve for this. Now, I got to look closely at these two values right here. These two values right here would be what? So going from here to here, what happened? It decreased by how much? Half. That is the key word right there, half. It is half. Okay, I go with this. So it's going to be this. Okay, these two are the ones that are going to help me for this value. Because we're going to try and solve for P here. We're going to try and solve for P. So, okay, I'm going to do some of the work, and I'm going to show you where this comes from. Then I'm going to make it simplified for you. So, I'm going to do the work to show you if you guys want to copy it down or just watch my algebra. And then I'm going to show you how to actually set it up. So, since I don't know this one, I don't know this one, but I do know this one. And I do know this one. So, my end result should be a 3.5 over 7 is equal to, that one's going to be my, where'd it go? I want to make sure I don't mess this one up for my algebra right here. So I get 3.5 over 7 is equal to my R value, because we're isolating this piece right here to eventually get to the point for my P. And that's to my two values, which is going to end up becoming, it's going to be this one minus this one. So 0.75 minus 0.25. So that gives me R to the 0.5 is equal to this over this, which is 1/2. So I'm doing the algebra, and I'm going to try and show you guys the end result to make the math easier for you. So by doing this, we know that 0.5 is the same as saying R to the 1/2. 0.5 is 1/2, isn't it? Okay, r to the 1/2. Okay, it's going to make this next part easier, so I'm going to go like this, raise it to the second power, because if I had the square root of r equals 1/2, which that means the same thing, right? To undo the square root, I square both sides. So I should get 1/2 squared is equal to r. All right, so now that I have that, so this, if I square it, it's going to be here, that's going to give me 2, that's going to give me 4, r is 1/4. Now, if we go back into this and do this one right here, it's going to be my two values, so I'm going to set this up. It's going to be f of your second one, which is going to be my whatever this is right here. So there's my 3.5 over your 7. So we get these two values. We divide those two. We're going to always divide those. And that's going to be equal to my r. These two values, which was my 0.75 minus your 0.25. I could use any values now and use this information here to always solve for my r. So I'm using these two here, which go here. I'm using this one minus this one to go right there. So this is probably one of the more complicated of the problems, and I'm pretty sure there's not going to be one like this on the test, but it is important to know. So now I'm going to write out the whole thing now. So I'm going to start off with my f of t is equal to whatever my initial is, because I still haven't found that one. My r is 1/4 and raised to whatever my time. Now I have the r, and I can use either one of these points here. So I'm going to use the first point. I'm going to use the first point here on this, because you could use either one. Because all that math right there was to find my r if I don't have the p. So now I'm going to plug in my f of t. My output was 7 equals p 1/4 raised to the 0.25. Because I'm using this point right here. My t is 0.25 and my output is 7. Now to get p by itself, divide both sides by 1/4 raised to the 0.25. And round it to the whole number if you could, please. Round it to a whole number. Not 1. All right, when we put this in the calculator, because these will cancel, 7 divided by 1/4 raised to 0.25. You get 10, don't you? So it's going to be 10 is equal to p. So you rounded it to a whole, so we got 10. 9.98, right? 8, 9, I said rounded to a whole number. So that's where we got 10. So let's go ahead and finish this. F of t is equal to 10, 1 over 4 raised to the t. So now we could use this to solve for any time. Okay, so hopefully you guys feel better about that. Like, share, and subscribe.